And it's another pirate broadcast where we bring interesting people doing interesting things together. And I just have all the gratitude in the world for you being here. And if you're joining on the live stream, thank you so much. Let us know where you're from and where you're coming from, what you're doing today in the comments. I'll try to reach into the comments and grab a few comments and share those with the audience. And also, I just want to let you know that Lori is here today, and she is already a pirate. However, she was an early adopter, and she was kind enough to give me her time early on, and so I wanted to bring her back and let her allow her to have a conversation with us today. And thank you so much for being here, Lori. How are you?
Oh, well, thank you. You make it sound like it's a hardship to come back twice. I'm like, yeah. I mean,
No.
I mean, it's like I get to have fun. I get to talk to you. We have a great group. So yeah, it's an honor. So
Thank you.
Very happy to be here.
Thank you. You know, when we were last talking, I was actually in Houston, and I was sitting in the kitchen of my son's house.
Oh, really?
And the lighting was kind of different, and I didn't have everything set up the way I anticipated. And in fact, I'm heading back there on the 21st. I'll be in Texas. So any of you Houston folks that check in, listen in, let me know. Love to connect with you while I'm in Houston and enjoy the visit while I'm there. So I just thought it was really nice of you to help me get started on the Pirate Broadcast, and I wanted to bring you back and allow people to understand what your gift is and some of the things you're doing in your life, and the passion that you have for your community. And we've been connected on a couple of levels, and I just wanted to share a few things about what you're doing. So give us an update on what you've been doing since the last time you were on the Pirate Podcast.
Well, I think the greatest thing is having greater clarity. I mean, it's easy for me to see that in others. Sometimes for ourselves, it takes time to really figure out, okay, exactly what do I want to do? Who do I want to work with? And how do I get there? And sometimes the path is not straight. So, from the get-go, from my corporate experience, and doing training and sales training, I always wanted to do corporate workshops. But, starting out as a coach and facilitator and doing workshops for individuals is different than going into corporate settings. And so I wanted to, start off and get, some individual coaching and workshops under my belt, and then really start bringing those to the corporate setting. And that's, I'm still very excited, passionate, love working with my individual clients. I have been fortunate to have some fantastic clients. So I don't take that lightly that they place their trust in me. But I think that with everybody, there's so many different coaches. Everybody has a different style. For me, I've seen really good leadership in managers. And I've seen some that, there's breakdown in communication. There's either insecurity often where, there's micromanagement, or there's people afraid to speak up, or just, overall the morale is not good, or just plain dysfunction in the teams because everybody's kind of just doing their own thing. So I really feel strongly about my ability to go in there and help these people, and I can do this a variety of ways. So I know I'm kind of jumping around here, but it could be as simple as doing a strengths workshop. And that's, kind of like the very basic level, just understanding what everybody brings to the team and what makes them unique. And then where maybe they're weak, they're not as strong, so that you're partnering people together. Because, when we place someone in a position and that's not their strength, well, they're just never going to do exceptional and really get the job done the way that a leader might want it done. So you want to really position those people to where they're going to thrive. And strengths is such a wonderful framework. I mean, it's not just a tool, because I remember something Zach Messler said recently about, we can just go buy a $10 hammer. And I was like, I've caught myself saying this. So I'm like, okay, I got to come up with another word, but so maybe that's coming, but it just really is such a vehicle, a great vehicle, if you will,
Yes.
to facilitate better understanding, better, like tolerating everyone's uniqueness, because sometimes someone might do something that might annoy us, but then we realize, like, oh, okay, they're always asking questions because that's how they gather information, and they really want to seek to understand, where someone else is just like whatever, and they just want to start working. Then we've got, the people that have more of the relating themes, and they really want to, bond and connect. And it really, to me, is just fascinating. I mean, I'm just like self-professed geek, because I don't want to bore everyone, because they're like, oh, we get it, Lori, we get it. Okay. I mean, we know.
It's really fascinating to me because, the dynamics in any organization, whether it be a corporation or a nonprofit or any kind of a group that's loosely, collected together for a cause, it's really interesting when people understand what their strengths are and where their, the differences are. And I think it's really important for, especially in corporate environments where it's so competitive and everybody's, interested in being heard.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people misunderstand other people's communication as something other than what it is, and it's just, like you said, seeking to understand. And so having a coach or having a mentor or having someone outside the environment come in and actually see and explain and have them seek to understand rather than to respond, it's like a very
Yes.
important part of the process. And I know there's a lot of coaches out there, and I know that everyone's different. And I believe that everyone needs a coach, because there's not necessarily, our inside our head is not necessarily the place where we want to coach ourselves, right?
We got to get out of our heads. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been doing it my whole life, so it's it's been a long time coming. But you work through things, and
So get
I
out of
have
your head.
I have coaches. We all need, and whether you have a formal coach and you have or if you have a mentor, you got to have that person that really can encourage you, but also speak frankly and say, well, this dialogue you're telling yourself, that these actions, the things that you're doing in, say, a work environment, is actually shutting down and prohibiting communication.
Yeah.
And so, like, when you said that, I was like, oh man, were you reading my mind? Because
Yes, I
that's
was.
something else that I'm yeah, I know, we're like this, right? Trying to think of it, working on a new workshop that kind of ties in, because I also realize, people don't know what they don't know, right? So I do UMAP. I think that's kind of like the ultimate, if you really want to seek to understand and know, because then you're not just positioning to someone's strengths, but you're also looking at what motivates them, the motivating skills and tasks, because if there's a disconnect there, then there needs to be a conversation, and hopefully they can find another place within the organization. Often the employee might say, hey, I kind of knew this, but now I know why.
Yeah.
And then the values and the personality, because that gives, one, it's a personal development tool or team building. You can use it in a variety of ways. That is the employees to keep. So that's theirs. And that's empowering.
And it also allows just, a lot of people may not be familiar with the process. However, it does allow the individual to understand some of the things. It's like, oh, that's probably why I do A, B, and C.
Yeah, because it's right below the surface. I mean, some of the things You just really don't have the language to articulate it. At least that's, like when I went through it, I was like, oh, okay. And then you're like, duh, if I would have known this back then, and when I, even on performance reviews, I mean, you don't have to be a job seeker. You don't have to switch careers. You can even, use this with, relationships if you were outside of work too, but it can help you get promotions and really speak to, hey, why I'm the person for the role. I just think that it's a great vehicle to accomplish so much. And of course, Kristen Sherry coming out with her new book, Advanced Copy.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
hold on. I got to get it in front of the camera. That would help. Your team. No, wait, Lori. Wow.
The
Okay.
team
Where's
loves
the camera?
Mondays, right?
Right. Yeah. So that really ties in and to some of the workshops too, because managers, nobody really wants to be a bad communicator. Nobody really wants to have a bad team.
I think
But
inevitably everybody has the opportunity to improve. Everybody has an inherent need to be heard. Everybody has a desire to be good in some way. And so I think it's really important for us to really think about that and do what we can to improve ourselves. I mean, in lifelong learners,
exactly.
information is around and available. So, Gabriel, I want to give a shout out to a couple of people in the room joining us. Jeff Young, thanks for joining. This is awesome. Good morning. Gabriel, Sherry Lolly, Lindy, Shalette,
Wow.
thank you for being here again. Lewis, thank you so much. Vicki O'Neill. I'm sure that I'm missing a few people. Rex Powers, I haven't heard from you for a while.
Wow.
Happy day. And also, one of the questions, Richard Pickett, thank you for being here.
Hi, Richard.
And Kenyatta's here. We
hey,
saved
girl.
your feet, right?
Yeah.
Angie, thank you so much for being here. Trish. So I want to, Gabriel asked a question, and I think it's a good question.
Okay.
Like, how did you know that you wanted to be a coach? Because you came from a corporate background, and I want to put this together because a lot of people are on a journey, and we get to this point. Like I was talking to Carol yesterday, she was in the corporate world, and she just didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. And, at some point in time, either I became part of the corporate orphanage, because they changed directions in the company or they sold the company, it's like whatever circumstance you're in. And so talk about your journey and inspire people to understand that there's some of the things that are choices in our environment that are made. And sometimes it's a choice that we make. And my best advice would be to find a mentor, find a coach, find somebody that can help you, because there's confidence issues when you're ejected. There's misunderstanding about what your true power and your strengths are. There's some things that your imposter syndrome may be a part of it, that we call that label.
I had all of those.
We all carry that. And so sometimes it's the other person, another outside person, that sees the bright and the light in us that we can't see ourselves. So talk about your journey a little bit so we can inspire a few people here to maybe think about things.
I was in pharmaceutical sales, healthcare sales for, almost 20 years. And then I worked medical manufacturer before that.
Drug pusher.
I was a drug pusher, but I helped many people. So that's a whole nother debate. We're not going to go there, but it's, but I really did. I mean, that when you talk about your journey, like people say, oh, it's really important to me for the patients. For me, it really was, because that's like my number 2 value. Well, my number 1 is love and connection to others, but number 2 is making a difference. And so it really mattered to me. Like some people are like, yeah, it's all about the patient. And, ultimately, but they're like, yeah, come on, bring me my bonus check. Which is nice, not going to lie, but it's not, I really felt that I was able to partner and be an advocate. I enjoyed the teaching process and helping others. And then I had opportunities again throughout my career and with several different organizations. After I was downsized from the one, uh, they allowed me to do training, and I was new hire mentors, and then I was kind of like the unofficial go-to. And I've always been one of those. I don't know if it's just because I speak up when I shouldn't. I don't know. But, like even my last manager, she's like, so tell me what's going on, because I know everyone talks to you. And I said, yeah, because I'm usually the one that might need to filter, but I don't always. But I have learned to filter, trust me. Younger emotional intelligence to where I am now, way different. So yes, you can improve. You can control,
you can learn
and regulate. I heard this word. I was listening to a podcast this morning. It's like regulating, and that's one of the most important things that any person can do, and especially an entrepreneur, because another thing that I discovered from the first company to the second company, because I had worked for one company 16 years. So I thought I was going to retire from there,
right.
but it wasn't great towards the end. And there was some things going on. That's a whole nother conversation. And a part of that ties into my desire to go in and help, corporate teams and how they communicate. But towards the end, it was not great. And it wasn't great really for anybody. I mean, we all kind of just went our separate ways for a while. And unfortunately, like when I'm depressed, I disconnect, and that's like the worst thing you can do. But like I just went into a funk. But then once I got kind of bounced back from that and started working with other companies, I worked some contract positions, and I discovered that I am an onboarding phenom and that I could get up to speed quickly. Of course, I didn't know that's because I'm a learner, and that I have a ranger, and so that I really can take all those things. And when I finally like committed to working with a coach, I got downsized, or laid off in January 2018, so it's been 2 years now.
Wow.
And started working with Kristen Sherry because I didn't interview well. I didn't really know how to make myself stand out, even though I had this great track record. And I'm not saying that to brag, but I had all this great experience. I had the specialty sales. I had, I checked all the boxes for the jobs I was applying for, but so did a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And so we worked in interviewing and did that. But then, at first, when our very first conversation, I remember saying, I really want to do training. That's what I really enjoy doing. And she's like, great, we'll, do this and blah, blah, blah. And then I chickened out, and I emailed her back, and I said, you know what? I think I really want to.
Small, Lori.
I did. I went small. I've been small for like 2 years. I've been small in my life, really. I'm like 5'1.5", 5'2" on all legal documents. But it's I did. I panicked. I was like, I can't do this. And I mean, Kristen was, very encouraging. She's like, okay,
right there.
She was like, we'll do this. So, I kind of, I interviewed, I had some opportunities, and then it just finally, I was like, do you think I'd be able to be a coach? Like I just kind of, because I didn't really ever see myself working one-on-one. I always thought of like in more of a team environment, because that's what I've done, sales training and working with teams. And she's like, yeah, and she starts rattling off like Kristen can do, like no one else, right? And I was like, sure. And so she is a pirate, and she had a pirate joke. I was like Googling, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm not even going to try to top that and go there, right? We'll just let it stand. She is the ultimate pirate broadcast teller. So I got a first certification actually in a 5-factor model personality assessment that summer. And then I just sat on it because I didn't feel I was ready. I'm like, oh, and that was part of my responsibility strength. And I hate to keep going back to strengths, but I mean, it was, I really
Well, I think
didn't
it's important.
think.
I think it's important to talk about it because, one of the reasons that I wanted to bring this on because so many people are in this. I read an article the other day that retirement is, kind of a phased out thing. The
Yes, you're
idea that we're
next.
gonna,
Yeah.
the idea that we're gonna work for 30 years for an organization and you
Mm-hmm.
know, evolve to a retirement, a so-called retirement phase of our life is kind of a it's a kind of a lost opportunity in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
respects because we're living longer, people are retiring later, and there's a lot of factors that go into it. However,
Mm-hmm.
like I myself, I worked 25 years, I've invested 25 years in corporations that no longer exist.
Yeah, I've
And
worked for a few of those.
yeah, so it's like yes, it evaporates, and it's
Yeah.
not the same as it used to be, and so one of the key benefits of finding your strength and understanding who you are and how you fit is really key to benefiting those around you and understanding, okay, what opportunities can I bring to the table that will generate something for not only the people I serve and bring value to the world, but those, that can support my family as well, because
Sure.
both sides are important. And
Yeah.
Gabriel was asking in the comments is, how do you feel? And this may be an unfair question, but there's a lot of coaches that,
Sure.
there's a lot of coaches out there right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that.
And I think we see them because we're connected in a coaching environment in LinkedIn.
Mhm.
So we
Mhm.
notice it a lot more. And some of these, sometimes coaches are there, because they have a skill, they have something they've learned, and they could share it, and that's valuable to me.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of people, like you said, for the pharmaceutical salespeople, it's just there for the money. And I think
Mhm.
the ones that are more successful, that can develop their success, are the ones that are really serving the community rather than
Yeah.
what's in it for me. And I don't know
Yeah.
if you have any thoughts about that because I think it's important for us to understand that, when you're looking for a coach, when you're searching for assistance or a new perspective, you really have to understand a little bit about what it is you're searching for. You know,
Mhm.
what's the gap that you imagine in your head? Because the gap that you think that you have may not be the actual gap that you have. You
Yeah.
know, and, I talked about depression, and it's like yesterday was really it's like I was really in a funk yesterday. Everything's going well, it's like
Mhm.
everything mom and dad are good, I got plenty to do, keep me out of trouble, keep me out of the bars, keep me off the street. I
Yeah.
have I am truly blessed, and, sometimes there's just days where you're just thinking, "Man, I don't I can't put a finger on it." However, so I talked to a dear friend, and it's it gives you a different perspective. So, when you're coaching
Absolutely.
people, what is it that what's the process that you go through in getting them from stuck to unstuck? I mean, it's a
Okay.
different I'm sure it's different
Yeah.
for everyone, but what
Yeah,
kind
and I have, different vehicles, as I said, or that can deliver that transformation and goal that they're looking for and seeking, but it is going to look slightly different for each person. And so in the consultation, I'm always very clear about what I can deliver so that, they understand, okay, this is here's the processes, here's the things and the framework that we can use or that I feel would be the best for you to hit your goal
Mhm.
and get you where you want to be. How does that sound to you? Uh, it's also just taking their history sometimes. I mean, I had a consultation last week, and she's moving to another state. She's kind of looking for her next, and her kids are grown, all this stuff. And she stopped herself. She apologized from telling me about, she goes, "Oh, you don't need to know all that." And I'm like, "Yeah, actually I do."
Yeah.
Because they said, I want to understand. I mean, yes, there's sometimes when people share too much and you don't need to know. It's one thing from having a good relationship with their employees or clients, whatever the case might be. But then there's other times like, yeah, that's really not something you should share. With a client, you really want to understand. I don't, it's not really their baggage, but in some extent, you know, like if they've been through a divorce, if they've had a downsizing, if they've had some sort of trauma, then I need to know what I'm working with, because then I know those beliefs and what they're carrying with them. And a lot of that I know because I've been there and I
Yeah.
still go there sometimes. I mean, I really feel like here I am 2 years later and it's finally connecting. You know,
Yeah.
it just, all the pieces come together. I mean, it clicked mid last year and then something happened and then I was just kind of like, you
I think it was
know,
the pirate broadcast.
no, it was before the pirate broadcast. Actually, that brought me back, Ross. So, I mean, it you know, restored my hope in
You're a
humanity.
pirate. You're a pirate now.
I'm a
So,
pirate now. I
well,
can't be in a
some of the
funk. I mean,
tragedy in our life erodes our confidence. And that's just a given.
absolutely.
And so the baggage, everything we carry on our back, you know, from
Mhm.
childhood, from, you know, hurt feelings, missed opportunities, you know, all of those things contribute to who we become. And I
Mhm.
think a good coach can actually, you know, pick those apart and rewrite the story that we're telling ourselves, because it's not necessarily who we are today. It's an experience we had years ago, you know.
Yeah.
So let's write a new page in for the future, for tomorrow. And I think it's important for us to understand how that fits. And
Yeah, you can't go back. I mean, it's like, okay, you know, shoulda, coulda, woulda. We all have those moments. I mean, some more than others,
right.
but it's it's where you are right now and where do you want to go. And I think, and again, I'm speaking from my own personal experience, which, you know, people might get tired of me, but just start, because that's where I failed. And because I was so held back that it had to be just right. It had to be just so. So now it's like my mantra, everything is imperfect action is better than no action. Or some people say progress, or, you know, what's it? Progress over
Progress is better
process.
than perfection.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, say similar thing, and it's just start, right? I mean,
Yeah,
and I think that's the thing about working with a coach is you don't always have to know what that looks like. You don't have to know the how.
yeah.
You just have to be open to it. And not everybody is, and that's a really big factor. So we can guide you, but if you're not going to implement, if you're not going to do the work, I mean, sure, I can do a lot more if people want to pay me.
Yeah.
No one probably is going to want to pay me that amount of money to do everything, but somebody might, and if so, call me. Um, it's you know,
Well, but here's the bottom line though, and
mhm,
I want to wrap this up,
yeah,
Corey, because I think it's really important that everybody understand that you have a gift, you have a message, you bring value to the world, and somebody cares about that, and they need your assistance. And not everybody's a coach. However, everybody can help others around them. You know, a little bit of kindness goes a
absolutely,
long ways.
yeah,
And so becoming aware of our surroundings, our strengths, and just having a higher awareness of what's taking place, I think is important for us to understand. So, Lori,
yeah.
this has been an amazing, tremendous opportunity to share with a lot of people. Nick Dorsey's in the room, Trish,
Hey,
Vicky, all of the people that joined us today. There's so many people that need assistance, that they're resistant to it, and that's probably another episode. We'll talk about resistance and you know,
reading about that too.
yeah,
You know,
reading
that's
about
my
that.
learner. I'm always like reading and researching, but
Yeah, it's always
yeah,
out there. So I have to ask this question before we wrap up.
Mhm.
If you wanted to leave one thing with the world today, what would it be?
I heard something this week. I think it was Zeta Yardwood, and I looked it up. Had posted a comment on Lila Smith's post, and we were talking about like, hey, you're ready. You're, just times, let's get started. And she had posted a quote from Maston Kip. I want to make sure I'm like looking at my notes, make sure I get it right. And I think that this is just so impactful. It's like you don't have to feel valuable to be valuable to start. And I even noticed that yesterday, it kind of rang true. I'm in this parent group, and somebody was like, hey, my kids are starting over. I'm thinking about doing something, but I think I'm too old. And I'm like, no, girl, you're not too old. I mean, and it just started this whole string, and people started chiming in. And, again, it goes back to the stories we tell ourselves. We would never have that. Well, at least I would hope. We're not generally going to have that type of conversation and say those things that we say to ourselves. So we truly are our own worst enemy. But I loved that. I thought it was so impactful. So like when you just talk about whether it's a coach or anything you're doing today, tomorrow, going forward, you can be valuable to someone else, even if you don't see it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Lori, for
Thank
being here
you.
again. I love the opportunity to have a conversation with you, and it's always encouraging and enlightening. So, you know what, you know the rules.
Yes.
Kindness is cool, smiles are free, and you enjoy the day.
Bye.